this afternoon. Thank you.
And we also have a beautiful young lady right over there. We have Dr. Yang Xiao, also from Zhongnan Hospital of Wuhan University, and he's also a doctor who has been fighting the battle since the beginning of the outbreak. And of course, for our online viewers, if you have any questions, you can post comments on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube with hashtag COVID, my opinion on COVID-19. And on the other side of this teleconference, we have quite a big group of doctors, right? And we have doctors from the Hillel Yafi Hospital in Israel. And I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Elias Hello, because I believe you know much more than I know about this crew. So what questions do you have prepared for our doctors here in Wuhan?
Okay, so actually, thank you for this meeting. And before we start, I want to give the speak for Dr. Miki Dudkevich, our General Director of the hospital, for saying few words and welcoming you. So please, Dr. Dudkevich.
First of all, good morning, and I would like to thank Professor Ian Penn for accepting our request for the professional meeting and to assist us and to guide us with your best experience in facing the new global challenge of coronavirus. And also, I would like to thank Mr. Yan Zhang, Director of the Consular Section from the Embassy of the People's Republics of China and Israel, and Mr. Li Xianbin of the Science and Technology Section of the Embassy of People's Republic of China in Israel for helping us to communicate properly with the Chinese patients in our hospital and to give them the optimal treatment. We are truly appreciate your personal involvement. Thank you, and Dr. Elias, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dudkevich. We're gonna proceed with some questions. So at first, I would like to get a first question from Dr. Benjamin Abu. So Dr. Benjamin Abu, Deputy Director of Hillel Yafi Hospital. Please, Dr. Abu.
Hello, everybody. Good day. The question that I want to ask, the big question, an enigma that I have, and I'm trying to understand, and maybe you can help us understand, is we are preparing for a long time, for almost 2 months, we are preparing for a massive event. Now, we have a lot of patients with COVID positive tests, but we have fewer patients who are ventilated or dead. And in fact, we can see that the percentage of ventilated patients in Israel is much lower than other places, like the numbers that we saw in China, in the United States, and in Europe. I want to ask, do you understand the mechanism of immunization? And can you help us explain why the numbers are very low in Israel comparing to those countries, to other parts of the world?
Thank you so much. I think for the immunization is a fairly good question for us to answer, but I'm not quite sure if our doctors have the expertise to evaluate on the situation in Israel. But Dr. Pong, do you want to take this question?
Okay. So how much instance for the patients requiring ICU in your hospital? I mean, how many percentage of the patients in your hospital requiring ICU, requiring intubation?
Okay. So Dr. Abo, Dr. Pong just asked you a question. What's the percentage of patients in your ICUs who need incubation right now?
I'm answering. It's 109 patients out of almost 13,000 COVID positive patients. So it's less than a promille, I think.
have you calculated? So how many percentage of this COVID positive patients are intubation in ICU? So actually, in my hospital, only 20% of the COVID patients need hospital admission, and quite small of the patients, quite small portion of the patients need ICU, and in the ICU, half of the patients requiring intubation. So this is the figure from our hospital. So most of the persons are mild persons. Okay, just stay in the local hospital, which is called functional hospital in Wuhan. But only small parts of the patients, only 30% of the patients need hospital admission, and of the patients in the hospital, only 10%. Only 20% of the hospitalized patients requiring ICU. So actually the proportion of the patients requiring intubation is quite small, also in China. But for the patients in the ICU, I can say half of the patients requiring intubation. So actually, this is the figure in our hospital. Even probably in the figures near the Wuhan. Regarding how high percentage of the intubation in Western country, I don't know. I don't know the but probably it's I think it's something for the symptoms from the COVID patients in Europe, even in the States, are a little bit different from that in Wuhan, because I know some of the patients have the neurological symptoms, but here we haven't. Some of the patients have severe acute kidney injury, AKI. The high percentage of the patients in ICU complicated with AKI, but here we only small parts, only 15 to 20% of the patients in ICU complicated with AKI. So something different here from the figure in the States, in the Europe. But I don't know how to explain that. Probably it's the genetic factor play roles. I don't know. Probably need time to explain.
Okay, but do you see any difference in the percentage of ICU patient in different parts of China? Like, I'm trying to understand if it's a genetic difference, it's demographic difference, but there is a difference. When in Italy you had 13,000 patients, you had already 1,000 deaths. We have only 170 deaths, and we have more than 10,000 positive patients. So there is a big difference in the numbers between Europe, China, United States, and Israel, and I'm trying, well, to understand it.
Yeah, probably is some differences, between the patients in Wuhan and patients outside of Wuhan, and I know almost I can say 80% to 90% of the mortality came from the patients in Wuhan. So even China is a huge country, but others in other provinces, only small parts of the patients died from the from COVID-19. But here, in one, you know, I mean, it's the for example, for the overall mortality in Wuhan, it's much higher than that in other area, in other provinces, even outside, even in other cities outside of Wuhan in the same province. I don't know. I don't know. I cannot explain. Probably something. Probably you know the virus mutation. I don't know. Probably yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. We can. Thanks for the knowledge. Elias, I think we can continue to the second question.
Yeah, actually, Dr. Michael Stein, the head of the infectious disease and infection control unit in our hospital, who's facing in the front line the new COVID, she has some questions. Please, Dr. Michael.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for this talk. I want to ask some questions regarding infection control routines that you use. The first is, do you use a serological test at all? And the second, if you sample a PCR test for asymptomatic persons like healthcare workers or patients admitted for elective procedures.
第一个问题是关于这个
就是无症状的患者是否要做 PCR？
对。
第一个我没听到。
第一个是关于抗体检测 ，so serology test 就抗体检测。
So Dr. Hu Bo is going to take the question.
Okay. Thank you for your question. I will try to ask these questions. The first question, I think in China we will do 3 things for the test. The first thing is nucleic acid test. The sixth thing is the serological test, just antibody test. And the third thing is the CT scan. All of these 3 tests is in our hospital to test to every patient inpatient to the hospital and to avoid the symptomatic patients.
But I mean for the screening test, we test the PCR first. So if the PCR shows the positive, so then we can give the confirmed diagnosis. But if the PCR test is negative, also we will go for the serology test to see any antibody or not. So this is will help us to give the confirmed diagnosis for the patients. So even the patients has negative PCR test.
And do you sample healthcare workers?
Yes.
They are asymptomatic?
Yeah, of course, yes. For our healthcare workers, we routinely monitored the for the PCR, for the serology test. So because we have a shift. So if anyone off the shift and back to the hotel for the quarantine, and then before the back to the normal life, and then we will give the test for the healthcare workers, including the PCR, including the serology test, including the chest CT.
Really?
So yeah. But for the asymptomatic, I mean for the asymptomatic patients, but we don't know who is the asymptomatic patients. But we will run the test. We will run the screening test for the high risk of the population, such as the healthcare workers, such as the family members of the patients, such as the volunteers working in the hospital. So we do the test for this group of the population with the high risk of the infection, including the assessment, including the PCR, including the serology, including the chest CT. Even without any.
And what is your experience with the serology for the, I mean, with the reliability of the serology tests?
Yes, we have abundant serology tests. Even besides health workers, actually, we big companies and government departments, if the workers want to return to work, they have to do this test first. If the tests are negative, they can come back to work normally. Not only our health workers, but also a majority of workers in Wuhan.
So right now we run the generally we run the test for the general population just to try. Is anyone infected? With the we just say without any symptoms, which is called asymptomatic infection. Just to run the test for the general population. But here you mentioned about the experience of the serology. I mean, IgM produced within 1 week of the infection, and the IgG produced after 2 weeks of infection. This is the facts we observed. We see.
Do you check for IgA also?
No. IgM and IgG. IgM and IgG. Yeah, both.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Sorry for that. Thank you, Dr. Michal. And now we'll take another question from Dr. Jamil Mohsen, the director of the Corona department in our hospital that treats many intensive care patients. Please, Dr. Jamil.
Okay, hi and hello for everybody. So my question is about, do you prefer early intubation and mechanical ventilation, or it's safe for patient and mechanical and medical staff to use non-invasive support and avoid unnecessary intubation?
Early intubation 还是说
避免那个用避免插管的，用无创经验怎么样？你怎么能避免插管？
Thank you for your question. I will try to answer. Actually, we just prefer early intubation because I think the most difficulties in these patients' respiratory is the strong respiratory driving, and to reduce this driving, the most efficient method is the IMV. And when IMV, we use sedation and analgesic, even an MBAS. And then if we stop the respiratory driving, and the injury to the lung will reduce and the patient will recover possibly. Thank you.
But there is a criteria for when to intubate patient? There is a criteria when to intubate patient.
Okay, and we think we most focused on the hypoxemia, and the PF ratio less than 150 is our target. And then we also focused on the respiratory rate. If the RR more than 35 BPM and the tidal volume more than 9 milliliters per kilogram, and this is our target for intubation. Thank you.
So just Dr. Hu said, so if the PF ratio less than 150, and then we will try intubation first. If the PF ratio above 200, and then we will try the non-invasive. But we need to follow up. We need to follow up how the patient's response to the non-invasive ventilation. If not, so and then we will switch to the intubation.
And the period of the observation of the NIV is about 2 hours. If we resolve the problem in 2 hours, we will go on VIV and NIV. And if we can't resolve the problem, we will choose intubation.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to interrupt real quick for a tiny bit, just because, as I have mentioned, our online stream is being viewed by tens of thousands of viewers on the internet, and I mean, some ask their questions. It could be, it's not that technical or that medical, but I think it is a good refreshment and reminder for people out there. So on Facebook, someone asked from Cambodia, how long is COVID-19 virus living in the air, clothes, or shoes? How long will the virus, survive on surfaces? Yeah, and also in the air or
在光滑表面可以有7天的，在外科口罩表面是7天以上的，可以的。
So actually, one paper published for this observation. So I don't know the detailed figure, but I know. So you guys you can check up the paper published in the, I'm not sure in the JAMA or in the New England. So this is a very simple observation, just to see how long the virus will survive outside in the different surface of the of items. I mean, from hours even to days, but it depends on the different items, different items. Yeah, but I don't know the details. But probably you can check the papers published in New England. I think it's New England.
I can do some supplementation, and I know some detail about if the coronavirus stay on the face mask, surgical mask, it may be lived for 7 days. And if on the smooth area, it may be lived more than 12 hours. I just can't do this supplementation. Thank you.
But in my opinion, don't be too worried because if the temperature is higher than 50 to 60 degrees
Celsius.
Yes, the virus will be killed. Okay, so don't be too worried.
So basically, for Tushak Chenan from Cambodia on Facebook, the virus will live on the surface from a few hours to even a few days. But of course, just wear the mask and wash your hands. And as Dr. Yan had told us, the virus can be killed in a high temperature, like 52 to 60 degrees Celsius. And also we have Mr. Jing back, because Mr. Jing has some few questions for our doctors here in Wuhan. I'm going to ask him to talk with to just ask his questions with Dr. Peng for real quick. 金先生，欢迎您回来，现在能听到我们吗？就因为其实您是已经现在是在这个医学观察嘛，您有什么疑问吗？和我们这边的专家想交流一下，金先生。
现在就是一直咳嗽，觉得胸口上面有痰什么的，就是咳不出来。
So basically, Mr. Jing asked, because he's still coughing, he kept coughing and dry coughs, and he wants to know why he's experiencing this. And Dr. Peng, any thoughts on this?
But
其实您回答还可以用英文，用中文，然后。
我知道。是这样的，金先生您好，那个我在我们的临床经验里面看到，确实有一些患者在康复之后还是会遗留比较长时间这个干咳，那么可以适当的用一些止咳的药物。那么我不知道在咱们以色列还能不能拿到一些中成药，有一些中成药是比较有效的，我们有些患者还是有效的。然后的话，还有一些西药的止咳药也可以尝试使用一下。那么除此之外的话，我们还要排除一些哮喘，有一些病人会在疾病的后期会演化出哮喘的症状，你可能也还是要找医生去看一下有没有这个哮喘，类似于哮喘这种发作。因为有些人虽然是哮喘，但是他会表现为持续的咳嗽，用一些这种抗哮喘的药也许有一定的帮助。所以的话，您可能 还是可以去找一个医生，再继续随访一下。
谢谢。
今天让我先稍微翻译一下给我们以色列朋友还有我们全国的伙伴观众啊。So Mr. Yan answered Dr. Yan answered the question from Mr. Jing, a COVID-19 patient right now under medical surveillance in Israel, and he asked why he has been kept coughing, and Dr. Yan said that it's possible for him to get some medicine to tackle with the coughing problem, like cough drops, or even TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, if it is available in Israel. And I think there is a really good suggestion from Dr. Yan. Is just she told from observation from her previous experience, COVID-19 could possibly trigger asthma in patients in recovered patients, and he advised Mr. Jing to actually revisit doctors to see if actually he's now experiencing asthma. 金先生还有其他问题吗？ Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Jing. So let's head back to our doctors from Israel. And Dr. Hello, any more questions from your side?
Yes, please. Actually, I would like to introduce Dr. Sharon Reisfeld, who is a senior doctor in our infectious control unit. Doctor, maybe you have some question. Here you go, Dr. Sharon.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for your time. In our corona patients, we take serial PCRs twice a week. I wanted to ask if you do the same to decide about stopping isolation or taking them out of the corona department. And do you do the same in critically ill and intubated patients? Or maybe it doesn't matter until they improve after extubation and clinical improvement, and only then taking the PCR. Do you have any comments on that? Thank you.
好像是说就是他们在那边的话，一周的话查两次核酸，然后的话对他们机械通讯拔管之后，他们问我们是怎么查的，是吗？对对，他就如果到那个时候，你是等到要查了以后再拔管，还是那样的，还是就是说因为他查的是拔管，他就关于拔管的问题，你怎么回答？可以啊，Thank you for your question. Thank you for your question. I'm trying to answer your question. In my department, we don't extubate our patient according to his PCR results. We only extubate our patient according to his clinical parameters or his gas ABG or chest raise. If we want to extubate our patient, we only find this clinical evidence, but without PCR test. If we want to extubate them, we just wearing do PPE well, and that's all. So actually it doesn't matter because based on our observation in my department, the positive, the patients, I mean the period for the patients from positive turn to negative around 21 days. So we don't care about when the patient will turn negative, but we just consider about when the patient can be improved. So doesn't matter. So if the patient extubated, if the patient still positive, we don't care about that, and then we will send the patient. We will discharge the patient to the general ward, and wait for the for couple days to wait to see any improvement of the positive results.
But we also meet some patients with the PCR test positive for a long time period. If the patient with a long time period with the positive, you will meet some difficulties in the treatment because this patient maybe the virus in his body for a long time and do not disappear. So the difficulties you will meet, and then other negative patient. Thank you.
I think the key for this question is the patient's condition, whether his condition is approved, and secondly is whether we do the PPE good or well. So the COVID test results won't restrict us clinical decisions.
Maybe I would make some questions together. What is your policy in treating the patient after, let's say, he was extubated and he feels good and still needs some rehabilitation after a prolonged ventilation period? How do you manage this situation if you can bring him back to a normal department that is not special for corona patients, or you keep him in a corona patient because still he may be a concern for infecting others? So if you have any insight for that, it would be we'll be very thankful.
Yeah, of course, we have a special floor for the COVID patients. So if the patients can discharge from ICU, and then we will put the patients in the special floor. It's a totally isolated floor, totally different from other patients without COVID-19. So we don't care about the patients. They have the close infection. So all the patients in a different building. So the COVID patients in this building, the non-COVID patient in another building. So we don't care about that. So everything totally separated from the COVID and the non-COVID patients.
Thank you very much. Dr. Adi Klein, who is the head of pediatric department here, maybe you have a question for us.
Yes, good morning. I would like to discuss the pediatric patient issue. In Israel, we have about 5% patients from the ages 0 to 9. And I would like to know what is the how contagious the children are in Wuhan, China. And the second question is the thought of pediatric patients being super spreaders, although they are asymptomatic, is true in your opinion? Thank you.
Super spreader. In our department, we only received adult patients, especially for our for our intensive care units. Those pediatric patients will be sent to the specialized pediatric hospitals. So we don't have many experiences about it. But according to my experience from my families, I know that pediatric patients was not that that many as adult patients. Even though the children living with the grown-ups, the patients affected, the grown-up patient was affected, but the children won't. So we, in fact, I was not quite familiar about it, about that.
But because most of the pediatric patients is in the children's hospital, not in our hospital. But we do know some information about the pediatric patients. They told us first the figure of the infected children is not so high. Secondly, most of them are asymptomatical or mild cases. Only few critical ill patients. So this is the all we know about the pediatric patients. Okay, thank you.
So another question from Dr. Jamil. Dr. Jamil is originally a cardiologist, and he's now into the intensive care of the COVID. We call it COVIDology. So maybe Dr. Jamil has another question. Please, Dr. Jamil.
Hi, hello. So I have two questions. The first one about prone position intubation, if you can tell us about this situation. And the other question about myocarditis at the COVID-19 patient, if you see a lot of patients with myocarditis as complication of COVID-19.
So actually, we prompt the patients as early as possible. Also, because the for the patients, it's difficult for them to improve the oxygenation. First, we cannot set the high people because the high people will induce the lung injury. Probably will induce the pneumothorax. So for us, the highest people for us is less than 10, and also difficult for us to do the recruitment maneuver because we cannot set the high people for the recruitment maneuver. So it's difficult for the for us to use the the routine measures to improve the oxygenation for the ARDS patients, but only the the prone position improve the oxygenation, but we should be patient because it takes some time. Probably take 2 or 3 hours to see the improvement of the oxygenation, but it do works for the COVID patients.
Okay, I will hand to some supplementation. I think the PPV should be administered with many times during COVID-19 because in other areas, we focus on the first 2 times PPV and the first 48 hours. But in COVID-19, we think the PPV should do more times because we found in COVID-19, the obviously increasing of compliance or PF ratio during PPV was not common in a short period at first, but with the prolonged period and more times, these advantages would appear gradually. The mechanism was promoting the sputum excretion and increasing the compliance. Thank you.
And there is the latest opinion from Italian experts. They divided COVID-19 pneumonia into 2 types, type L and type H. As we know, type L usually represents the early phase of COVID-19 pneumonia, manifested low elastance, low ventilation to perfusion ratio, low lung weight, low lung recruitability, while type H represented the late phase of COVID-19 pneumonia manifested with high elastance, high right to or left shunt, high lung weight, and high lung recruitability. According to the pathophysiologic features, we could use PPV for the supplemental treatment during the early period of type L pneumonia, and as a very mandatory treatment in the late period to improve confidence and the PF ratio in for the type H pneumonia. That's all.
Regarding the myocarditis, it's really interesting for us also as a cardiologist. How about the mechanism and the prevalence of myocarditis in your department, and what kind of diagnostic challenge it puts in front of the clinician that first sees the patient in the ER or in the internal medicine department?
So actually, we measured, the markers which called troponin A, the troponin level. The high sensitive troponin level. If the high sensitive troponin level is quite high, and also we suspect that the patient probably have the myocarditis. And also we do the bedside ultrasound to see is any abnormality of the cardiac contractility. If the if the EF is quite low, and then we also diagnose as the acute myocarditis, probably from COVID-19 patients, or from COVID-19. And also another issue, which is called acute core pulmonary. Acute core pulmonary is induced by the severe hypoxemia and subsequently severe pulmonary hypertension, and that is also very common in the ICU. And they will induce the hypotension because they compromise the left ventricle and induce and inhibit inhibit the left ventricle function. So we'll reduce the blood pressure. So if we improve the hypoxemia, and then we will improve the hypertension. So without any use of without any increase of the see the improved. So this is called acute core pulmonary, and also we can use the bedside ultrasound to see the typical features of the acute core pulmonary.
Thank you very much. Dr. Sharon Reisfeld, again from the infectious diseases, she has a question. Please, Dr. Sharon.
Hi, thank you. We heard about some patients that had major thrombotic events, although they were given antithrombotic or anticoagulant prophylaxis or even full dose. Did you see a lot of cases like this, and what do you do in your patients? Do you give them prophylaxis or full anticoagulation only to prevent these incidences? Thank you.
Okay. And let me try to answer this question. In our unit, we use prophylactic doses of heparin for all the patients, except they have bleeding risk. But if we found evidence of DVT or highly elevated of dimer, we might use therapeutic dosage of heparin. But in our unit, we can't do the CBTA routinely, so we can't diagnose PE, but we can do echography bedside. Yes, so it may help us to find or prevent PE.
Okay. So Dr. Howell, because we're running out of time, and we can have one more question from your team. Thank you.
It's really we are really humbled to see the brave internal medicine physicians that come into the first line, actually, as happened also in China and all over the world. And here we have representatives among them. And we also have a question from one of the representatives, Dr. Noga Aharoni, please.
Hi. I wanted to ask, you said that patients that were intubated, you sent them to rehabilitation in the special units, and I wanted to ask how long do you recommend isolation of these patients, and do you think that the virus is still excreted from other ways, from fecal excretion? How long do you recommend isolation?
if the patients had a negative COVID-19 nuclear results and also as well with negative IgM, we recommend the patient has at least 14 days for medical quarantine. Yeah.
And I do some supplementation. We make some patient back to positive of the nucleic acid test after twice negative. So we think the twice negative test may be not enough. And some in our hospital, we will do the PCR test the most to 5 times to make confirmation to the negative. And to my suggestion, if only 2 times of negative, the physicians should not increase the protected level of PPE. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this precious information and giving experience from your first line. Actually, allow me at the end of this meeting, the professional meeting, to thank you again on behalf of our patients, of our doctors, and of our director of our hospital. And we are really interested in proceeding with clinical research, especially in the COVID pandemic. We actually have another phase than you do have in facing this pandemic. And first, we would like to join you if you have any offers for us, and we can go offline later for giving some protocols of research, clinical research for patients here, in order to make it in order to make proceeding and improvement in the treatment of COVID. We saw your curriculum vitae, and we see that it's very impressive, and we are eager and we are very interested in doing some research. So maybe this meeting shall be a start for a new way together.
Do you think that's a possibility, Dr. Peng?
Yes, sure. Yeah, possible. Yeah, possible.
Okay, so we can, smoothing out the communications later after this. So thank you so much, Dr. Elias, hello, and of course your hospital, and take care. And before we wrap up this session, as I have mentioned, there are viewers from around the world watching this live stream on the internet. Virginia Parrots on Facebook asked, he did her own research on COVID-19, and she said that she thinks COVID-19 is more of a blood coagulation, probably in the lungs. What's your opinions on this?
Yes.
Yes, we agree.
Yes.
Okay.
We found many patients with hypercoagulative status, but not all the patients is hypercoagulative. So we should still monitor his coagulative status, like monitor his PT time, APTT time, dimer, and INR. That is very useful for our clinical decision.
So absolutely, thank you so much, Dr. Yang, and of course Dr. Peng and Dr. Hu. And we're for the time's sake that we have to wrap up this session. But I have to mention this: during the over 3-month battle against COVID-19, and we know over 4,100 medical staff were drafted to aid Wuhan, but they have left Wuhan after the city got unlocked about over a week ago. But doctors here in Wuhan, they are still facing the potential of reinfections or even possible second wave of the COVID-19 disease, and they are still working very hard to prevent that from happening, including Dr. Peng, Dr. Hu, and Dr. Yang, who joined us today because they are from a local hospital, the General Hospital of Wuhan University. And CT will continue to be here in Wuhan and to bring back the latest about this pandemic. And thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
هذا صورة
好，谢谢。那您和他想去有这个 interest 吗？就是跟 research 还是来？那么还是
那你留个邮箱吧。
好呀，那我就直接你要不就是直接和那个 Hello
我让那个孙林丽跟他们联系。
行好，那是 embassy 对吧？还是？
对，那个驻那个以色列那个记者跟他们联系，是他们联系的。
So the lady who got contact with you and will be in touch with you if you have further interest to work with like Dr. Peng and his team here in Wuhan.
It's a pleasure.
And we're going to keep in touch.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day and stay safe, all of the medical staff, and thank you for everything that you give us. On behalf of all the hospital, thank you.
Thank you.
结束了。